All right, if you're deep in the trenches managing complex delivery pipelines on AWS, you know the pressure. You have to ship software fast, but it also has to be rock solid and reliable. Well, today we're going to dive into a pattern that can totally transform that entire process. We're talking about mastering ephemeral environments. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by talking about a problem we've all felt, the staging environment bottleneck. Then we'll look at the solution, dynamic previews, and the automation that makes it all possible. After that, we'll get real about the constraints you need to plan for, and we'll wrap up with a straightforward 4-step action plan you can actually use. Okay, let's start with a pain point that I'm willing to bet hits pretty close to home for a lot of you. We're talking about the staging environment bottleneck and all the sneaky hidden costs that come with those slow feedback cycles. Seriously, take a second and think about it. Is your single shared staging environment a constant battleground? A place where features are just lined up, stuck in a queue, waiting for their turn to be tested? If you're nodding your head right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This really paints a picture of two completely different worlds. Over on one side, you've got the old way, the single staging server. It's just plagued by slow feedback loops, those absolutely frustrating merge conflicts, and, my favorite, the last-minute integration surprises that pop up right before a release. It all just leads to high-stress, high-risk deployments. But then, look at the other side, the ephemeral way. This is a total paradigm shift. You get fast, isolated feedback on every single pull request. You're testing integration way earlier, which means less risk when you merge. And ultimately, you get to release with real confidence. And that right there is the perfect segue to the solution. We're going to move away from that static, clunky bottleneck to something far more elegant and powerful. On-demand dynamic previews. So what in the world is an ephemeral environment? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Think of it as a temporary, fully functional, and, this is key, completely isolated copy of your application. It gets created automatically for just one job, like reviewing one specific pull request. And then, as soon as that job is done, it's completely destroyed. Gone. No more waiting in line, no more who broke staging. The benefits here are huge, and they're immediate. Your feedback speed goes through the roof because reviewers can actually interact with a live running app, not just stare at code. You slash your integration risk because you're testing changes in a production-like setting from the get-go. This unlocks true parallel development, and it just makes everyone on the team way more confident when it's time to hit that deploy button. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? I want you to really let this sink in. A complete, live, production-like environment for every single change. That is the goal we're shooting for. It's not just a minor improvement, it's a fundamentally different, better way to build and validate software. So the big question is, how do we actually pull this off? Let's get into the nitty-gritty and look at the automated workflow pattern that brings this whole idea to life, from the moment a pull request is opened to the second it's torn down. Okay, here's the lifecycle step by step. It all starts when a developer opens a new pull request. That one action immediately triggers your CI/CD pipeline. It just springs into action. The pipeline's job? To spin up a brand new temporary stack on AWS. We're talking the whole shebang, a dedicated VPC, the application code, even a sanitized subset of your database. Next, automated tests can run against this live URL, and stakeholders like product managers or designers can do a manual review on a real clickable website. And then poof, as soon as the PR is merged or closed, the pipeline automatically destroys that entire stack. It's clean, it's efficient, and best of all, it's completely automated. And the magic that makes all of this possible, it's infrastructure as code. The tools you're probably already familiar with, like AWS CloudFormation, CDK, or Terraform. These are the engines that let you define, create, and destroy these temporary stocks on demand. Now, of course, we're architects. We know that no perfect solution exists in a vacuum. Putting this into practice means thinking ahead. So let's talk about how to navigate some of the real-world constraints you're definitely going to encounter.
You've really got 4 big ones to keep on your radar. Number 1 is cost. Spinning up all of these resources obviously costs money. Number 2, you will eventually hit cloud provider quotas, like the default limit on how many VPCs you can have in an AWS account. 3, you have to think about securely managing secrets for all of these temporary environments. And finally, you've got to have a smart way to get realistic test data in there without, just copying your production database.
But here's the good news. For every constraint, there's a solid mitigation strategy. To keep costs in check, that automated teardown isn't just a nice to have, it's absolutely critical. For quotas, you can design your stacks to share some resources, or you can just ask AWS for a limit increase. They're usually happy to help. For secrets, you absolutely should use a dedicated tool like AWS Secrets Manager. And for data, your best bets are using carefully sanitized data subsets or maybe investing in some data generation tools. All right, we've talked about the why, the how, and the watch out for this. Let's bring it all home with a practical 4-step action plan to help you start building this in your own AWS setup.
First things first, standardize. If you're not already, you have to define your entire application stack using an IAC tool. That's step 1, non-negotiable. Second, parameterize. Make your templates flexible so you can pass in variables like a branch name or a PR number to make each deployment unique. Third, automate. This is where it all comes together. Wire up the stack creation and tear down right into your CI/CD pipeline triggered by those pull request events. And finally, and this is so important, iterate. Please don't try to boil the ocean here. Start small. Pick one service, prove the value, get that win, and then expand the pattern from there. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. When every single change, big or small, can be reviewed in a live, isolated environment with zero consequences, what does that unlock for you and your teams? What could you build? What could you ship with truly risk-free reviews?